Number three, you can host a local meetup once every month, once every 6 weeks, twice, whatever you want to do. It can be a meetup um, it can be a meetup for people in healthcare to talk about the emotional strain of the work that they do. It can be a meetup to support people who are overcoming addiction. It can be a meetup that is dedicated to creating social experiences for seniors who live by themselves and they live in isolation. See, anything that you want to do to make things better in your community, in the city where you live, or in your profession, or for the communities you serve, or anything else really, any intellectual interest for that matter. You choose one of these options on the list below this video. Number four, a community organization, right? You start a simple organization. This is similar to a meetup, really. A meetup, a community organization. You can register with the city. You can advertise on Reddit. Again, this is something that we can help you with. We can write some articles, submit a press release about whatever it is that you're doing, and try to help solve a problem. How can you do a needs assessment of the city where you live, or the profession, or the place where you work, and do some small thing to try to help make things better, try to improve outcomes, right? So a community organization is another option. Number five, what about an online discussion community? In another video, I'll show you examples of people who started groups on Reddit or groups on LinkedIn. You know, you can join groups on Facebook, right? LinkedIn also has groups. And then on the website called Reddit, you may be familiar with, every subreddit is a discussion forum, and that's also like a group that people can join. And so it's easy to use social media to start online groups rather than a local meetup. You can start a group online. Then number six, an event. You can plan an annual event. How easy is that? If you plan an event just once each year, maybe it has something to do with Christmas, helping with Christmas holiday decorations for elderly residents, or something that you do each year for homeless people in the city where you live. Or it can be a yearly event for you and your colleagues. It can be to boost morale. You plan an event that has something to do with the place where you work, or the profession, and try to get as many people involved as possible. Planning a yearly event is an easy way to start a personal brand. It gets the job done because it gives us a way to post some information online about you. That's the object of the game. Or if you do the do-it-yourself option, use our method, and you publish information online about your yearly event or about whatever else you do. Make it so people can find you with a search. You have to choose what you call it. You have to choose what you call it carefully. Make sure that it's unique enough to be searchable, right? And that it's easy for people to remember and easy for people to spell. For example, one of the examples we use is the nerdy nurse. This nurse branded herself as the nerdy nurse, right? That's one way to start a brand. But another way that is completely different is these three nurses who started Chicago Bilingual Nurse. Now that website, chicagobilingualnurse.org, has grown into a big organization now. But when it first started, it was three people who started it together. They didn't name the brand after themselves, like the nerdy nurse calling themselves something. Not everyone's comfortable doing that. You have to be a little bit bold and extroverted to go and brand yourself by calling yourself a particular thing. But you can start your online brand by starting a community organization, or an online discussion community, or a website like chicagobilingualnurse.org, because that makes it so people can find you with a search. I'm involved with 10-Week Brand. You can find me with a search when you search for 10-Week Brand. You see, it's like that. With mine, it's a business brand, But for you, it can be a personal brand, the name of your blog, uh, the name of your yearly event, right? And then option number 7 on this list is articles, a series of articles that you publish to your LinkedIn profile. Articles all about something that is important to you, uh, how to increase the standards of quality in education, or how to provide child care for people who need it, or early childhood education. Whatever is important to you. You can see on this list below, there's an example of an article about nursing leadership. Also on that same list, you can find an example of an article about diabetes, about how to motivate someone to make healthy choices when they're diagnosed with prediabetes. So these are just examples of things that you can do. You don't have to be trying to achieve world peace or cure cancer or do other grand things. Instead, do something modest and focused. You choose something that is realistic, that you can help with. Maybe it's just as simple as option 1, where you start a website and you make some useful information available to people in your community. Maybe an at-risk group, a group that has a language barrier that prevents them from getting the health care that they need. Maybe you can help with that. See, so choose an option like that on this list below. If you're a teacher, maybe you want to increase parental involvement in education, or do something to improve outcomes for students on the autism spectrum. Maybe you'll start a blog about all the most recent research findings about best practices for teachers and parents who are trying to support a kid on the ASD spectrum, for example. I also don't want to give you the idea that your personal brand has to be all about volunteer work for a good cause, like a charity. It doesn't have to be that. It can also be an intellectual interest, right? Or an area of specialization. For myself, when I was trying to get writing gigs years ago, when I was first getting started as a freelancer, I I told people I had a special interest in language psychology, and it was true, and it's still true. I like the psychology of language and persuasion and choosing the words that feel good to read. This is what I've been studying about in my spare time, and I try to apply what I learn. This is my area of, can I call it a specialization? I don't know. It depends if you think I'm good at it or not. But I can call it an area of special interest, and you can do that too. Maybe you're an educator and you want to provide educational experiences for women and girls in Iran or Pakistan. It's just for example. Maybe you're a nurse and you want to choose certain barriers to healthcare for certain groups of people and do something to help overcome those barriers to accessing the healthcare that people need. When you choose one of the options on this list and choose something you want to have your brand be all about, something important to you, that's when we're ready to get started. And it's easy because you start to learn how to speak the language of personal branding. You start to understand the psychology of it. You see, if you make it possible for me to explain you to someone, that that puts you in a special category. 80% of people, you can't easily explain them. Think about somebody you work with. Who's the first person that comes to mind? Now, how would you explain that person? You might say they're talkative. You might say they're very friendly. You might say they're very professional. But these are vague things to say. What about the person who started Chicago Bilingual Nurse? It's easy to explain that person. She's the one that helped start Chicago Bilingual Nurse. That's very concrete. You know how a picture speaks 1,000 words? You know that expression? Or when you walk the walk instead of just talking the talk. When you're the kind of person who is inspired, you're the kind of person who is inspired enough and motivated enough that you want to use a little bit of your own time to start something, regardless of whether it's a simple website, a blog, a local meetup, community organization, online discussion community, or an annual event, or a series of articles. Regardless of what you choose to do, When you do it, you prove something instantly. You prove that you care enough to try to make a contribution and make a difference. That makes you the kind of person every employer wants to hire. It also proves to all your colleagues and friends that you really are a sincere person about trying to make things better with the work that you do. And then, in addition to all that, as if that's not enough, that's already great. But in addition to that, by starting something, by publishing a series of articles, starting a simple website, community organization, any of the things on the list, when you follow through and you're consistent enough and focused enough to actually create something and you give it a name that people can find with a search, now you're in a category all your own. Now you have a cool personal brand. It shows people what you're all about. One of the issues that is important to you, it can be about a particular specialization, like I said, or it can be about a group of people that you want to improve outcomes for. Whatever you choose to do to try to help, it can be about improving outcomes for your employer. It can be something that has to do with improving job satisfaction for all of your colleagues at work, or something that has to do with proactively trying to help achieve organizational goals for your employer. It could be like that too. See, you do anything you want to do because the goal is to be able to have something to say about you. This is the secret to personal branding. Do something worth talking about. Do something that we can publish some information online about, to tell people about it. Tell people about the annual event. Tell people about the event that you're planning. You can hire us to help with it, or you can do it yourself. We want to tell people about the series of articles that you publish. Tell people about your online discussion community so that they can join it. Tell people about your local monthly meetup for people to help linguistically diverse residents overcome their language barriers if they have limited English proficiency. Just, there are so many examples. You can choose anything that you're motivated to do. Then we get it started. If you get stuck, we can help. And when you get it started, other cool people will get involved with this thing that you started. You'll meet great people, and then it'll be possible for someone to find you with an internet search, find out what things you've been involved with doing, and then it proves that you're this type of person who cares and who is focused and who knows how to get things done. What if you're a nurse and also a few times each year you participate in an event where you help people improve their English, people who are English learners? Well, if you're applying for a job and there are 5 other people who are equally qualified, but I know that language barriers get in the way of people getting the health care they need, maybe if I'm the hiring manager, maybe I'll choose you because you're the one who's an English teacher. What if somebody asks me why I offered the job to you instead of someone else? I want to be able to give an intelligent answer. I want to be able to say, well, this applicant is also an English teacher, so it's a no-brainer for me. Just the kind of person that you are makes it so you give me a way I can explain you. You see, that's what personal branding is. And it starts with choosing an option from that list. One more example. Let's say you're a shift manager at a retail store and you just completed your MBA, your Master's of Business Administration. What can be the thing that is important to you? What can be a thing that you choose you want to do something about? How about if you have a special interest in business partnerships between American and Kenyan organizations? Now, that doesn't mean you can't get job offers that have nothing to do with international business between Kenya and the United States. It just means you have this one intellectual interest, something that you have looked into and that you know a lot about, and it proves to people that you kind of have your shit together. You have your life in balance enough that you're even able to have an intellectual interest, whereas so many people are just struggling to keep up and their lives are out of balance. That's pretty impressive. Even if your intellectual interest has nothing to do with the opportunity that you're being considered for, still, the fact that you have an intellectual interest or some kind of cause that is important to you that shows something about you. It proves something about you. So this takes 1 hour each week for 10 weeks. You can do it yourself. You can hire us for help anytime if you want to. And after 10 weeks, you can keep your cool personal brand going if you spend just 1 hour each month, publish something about it online, and then people will be able to find you with a search. You'll be more confident than ever before in your career because you'll know that you're more impressive than you were before, because it's like dressing up nice before you go out. You want to look your best. You want it so that when people Google you, they're going to find a few of the top search results are all about some cool things that you've been doing. Then you have an advantage in just about everything that you try to do. So I look forward to sharing that with you. Let's get started.
Real